What if the ruins buried beneath our feet are more than relics? They're warnings. We like to believe we're the peak of human achievement, advanced, untouchable. But what if we're just another chapter in a cycle older than we dare to imagine? Civilizations once far greater than ours thrived, and then vanished. No one expected the mighty Hittites, the brilliant minds of the Indus Valley, or the secretive Elamites to fall, but they did, completely, and fast. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The world today is making the same mistakes they did. Rapid growth, political division, climate disruption, economic overreach. Sound familiar? We're not watching history, we're replaying it. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for Today reveals how ancient powers rose on trade and tech, only to collapse from within. And now, as we chase the next big breakthrough, we're sprinting toward the same cliff. It's not about doom, it's about waking up. Because hidden in their downfall are secrets that could save us. You'll uncover lost cities, forbidden knowledge, and eerie parallels to our modern lives. Some of these truths challenge everything we think we know. Others, they might just unlock a new way forward, but only if we're brave enough to look back, before it's too late. What if entire civilizations, once powerful and thriving, just disappeared? No dramatic battle cry, no final farewell. Just dust, myths, and half-erased tablets buried under centuries of silence. It's easy to think we know history, but what if the biggest lessons lie in what's been forgotten? The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today aren't just stories, they're hidden blueprints, waiting to whisper truths to those who listen closely. Think about it. How many names have we never even heard? Yet their ruins lie beneath our feet. Their silence isn't accidental, it's a mystery begging to be unraveled. Take the Elamites, for example. Ever heard of them? Probably not. And yet they rivaled Mesopotamia in influence. Flourishing in what's now Iran, they built ziggurats, minted currency, and even had written law long before most civilizations. And then, poof, crushed by Assyrians, forgotten by textbooks. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today are not just relics, they're case studies in impermanence. If their brilliance vanished into sand, what makes us think we're any different? Then we have the Hittites. Once so mighty they negotiated treaties with Egypt's pharaohs. Their empire sprawled across Anatolia, mastering metallurgy, chariots, and diplomacy. But they left behind no grand finale, just fractured records and half-buried citadels. One moment they were mapping the stars, the next, gone. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today remind us, greatness doesn't guarantee longevity. Even giants fall, especially when they forget to look down while reaching for the sky. Now imagine a city more advanced than most of its time, with complex urban planning, underground sewage, and peaceful coexistence. That's the Indus Valley civilization. No kings, no war monuments, just quiet innovation and astonishing order. And then they disappeared too. Climate shifts? Resource depletion? No one knows for sure. But their fall is a humbling whisper from the past, part of the rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today. When balance is lost, collapse isn't far behind. These aren't just names to memorize, they're mirrors. Forgotten civilizations hold up a reflection most of us aren't ready to see. Empires with art, technology, and trade routes as vast as the Silk Road simply ceased to be. No tweets, no headlines, just silence. It's a haunting realization, and yet weirdly comforting, because if they fell, then maybe we can learn to stand stronger. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations, lessons for today might just help us decode what to avoid before it's too late. And here's the thing, if we keep pretending history started with Rome or Greece, we'll keep repeating the same blind march into oblivion. The world is littered with the ghosts of forgotten brilliance. And guess what? Some of these civilizations had technologies and systems we still don't fully understand. But how did they rise so high, only to crumble so completely? That's where we go next, into their golden ages and the thin line between triumph and downfall. At the height of their glory, these civilizations weren't primitive. Far from it. They were innovators, visionaries, and master architects of commerce and culture. The Elamites traded with distant lands, the Hittites revolutionized ironworking, and the Indus Valley engineered cities more organized than many today. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving. This is the heart of the rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today. It's proof that brilliance doesn't equal immortality, especially when stability hangs by a thread. Trade routes were the lifelines of these ancient powers. Picture bustling markets where spices, precious metals, and ideas flowed like water. The Hittites traded tin and textiles, linking east and west long before the Silk Road. The Indus exchanged goods as far as Mesopotamia. Economic prosperity was their oxygen. But what happens when those trade routes are disrupted? By war, drought, or corruption? As we'll see, the rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today shows how fragile global systems really are. Let's not forget their advancements in technology. The Indus had standardized weights, intricate drainage systems, and even early dentistry. The Hittites mastered the chariot, a war machine ahead of its time. These weren't tribes with spears. They were engineers, scientists, and mathematicians. Still, none of this saved them when the walls began to crack. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today tells us a brutal truth. No innovation can outrun internal rot. So what did cause the downfall? In many cases, it wasn't a single catastrophe. It was a domino effect. Shifting climates led to food shortages. Food shortages sparked unrest. Unrest opened the door to invasion or collapse from within. Sound familiar? The systems these civilizations built were incredible, but they weren't resilient. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today reminds us that even the most advanced structures can fall like a house of cards when pressure mounts. There's also a deeper irony. Many of these civilizations collapsed at their peak. Just when they seemed unstoppable, they vanished. Think about that. Isn't that eerily similar to today's world? Stock markets soaring while ecosystems crumble. Technological marvels distracting us from societal fractures. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today is a flashing red light, telling us that unchecked growth can be a trap, not a triumph. But before we get too comfortable pointing fingers at the past, let's take a hard look at ourselves. If cities with clean water and global trade could vanish, what does that say about our modern metropolises? We often assume we're smarter, better equipped. But are we really learning from their mistakes, or just repackaging them in shinier wrapping? Because next we'll compare their final days with the chaos we're facing right now. If ancient civilizations could speak, they'd probably shout, "We've seen this movie before." Economic crashes, social unrest, environmental chaos. It's not just modern drama. These patterns echo through the corridors of time. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today aren't just nostalgic bedtime stories. They're warnings dressed as ruins. Because believe it or not, what brought down the mighty empires of yesterday looks eerily like headlines from today's newsfeed. Take economic instability. The ancient Elamites once thrived on regional trade until rivals disrupted their roots and their economy crumbled. Fast forward, a single financial crisis today can send shockwaves across continents. Markets crash, unemployment rises, and nations tremble. Sound familiar? The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today show how prosperity without balance can be a ticking time bomb, and we're hearing that clock a little louder every year. Pandemics, too, played their part in history's great collapses. Some researchers believe disease outbreaks weakened populations before invasions ever reached their gates. We've lived through our own version recently, haven't we? Systems stretched thin, supply chains broken, trust in leadership questioned. The past didn't just whisper, it screamed. And yet, many covered their ears. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today proves that resilience isn't about avoiding crises, it's about how we respond to them. And let's not skip political instability. The Hittite Empire, for instance, fractured from within. Power struggles, poor succession, crumbling alliances. Sound like modern politics? Corruption isn't new. It's just gotten better at marketing. The institutions we trust can be the very ones that undo us if left unchecked. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today isn't about ancient kings, it's about human nature. When greed overshadows governance, collapse isn't a matter of if, but when. What's most haunting is how preventable many of these collapses were. The signs were always there. Environmental warnings, social rifts, economic imbalance. But pride, denial, or pure complacency buried them, just like we do now. Rising sea levels, Political division? Global inflation? Déjà vu, anyone? The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today is a sobering mirror, one we often refuse to look into until it's too late. Still, it's not all doom and gloom. Buried beneath the rubble are clues, hints at how some survived while others fell, patterns in resilience, in adaptation, in community, and new discoveries in ancient ruins are shedding light on these possibilities every year. That's where we're headed next. Because what lies beneath the sand and ice might just hold the keys to our future. Beneath layers of sand, ice, and time lie truths that history books barely whisper. Recent discoveries are rewriting everything we thought we knew. Entire cities unearthed in deserts, temples revealed by melting glaciers, and advanced tools found where primitive societies once stood. These aren't anomalies, they're breadcrumbs. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today are hiding in plain sight. All it takes is the courage to dig a little deeper, literally and metaphorically. Take Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. It predates Stonehenge by thousands of years, with intricate carvings and massive stone pillars, built by people we once labeled hunter-gatherers. How? Why? Who funded this prehistoric architectural feat? It challenges everything we assumed about early society. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today becomes clear here. Maybe we've underestimated the past, and by extension, misunderstood our present. In the frozen north, melting permafrost has started revealing ancient settlements once thought lost forever. From Siberia to Greenland, tools, bones, even entire structures are emerging from the ice like time capsules. What's striking isn't just the artifacts, but the level of sophistication. Some had irrigation, heating systems, trade hubs. Again, these weren't scattered tribes. They were organized, intelligent communities. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations, lessons for today, comes with a twist. Sometimes nature buries knowledge to preserve it. And in the dense Amazon rainforest, satellite technology has exposed geometric earthworks, suggesting massive cities once flourished beneath the canopy. We once believed the jungle was untouched. Now we know it was sculpted. Entire civilizations vanished into vegetation, leaving behind only shapes in the soil. What else is out there, waiting to be found? The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today teaches us this. The earth remembers, even when we forget. These buried secrets aren't just historical trivia, they're unsettling in their implications. If humanity reached such heights before, and lost it all, what's stopping it from happening again? Every ruin we uncover is like a ghost tapping us on the shoulder, whispering, warning, watching. Maybe those civilizations didn't just fall, they were erased, neglected, ignored. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today might hold more relevance now than ever before. But here's the kicker. Even with all we've unearthed, the biggest mystery remains unsolved. Why didn't they survive? How did such brilliance vanish so completely? What flaws were baked into their systems? What choices sealed their fate? As we peer into the remnants of these buried worlds, we start to see reflections of ourselves. And that leads us to one uncomfortable question we can't afford to ignore. Let's not kid ourselves. History doesn't just rhyme. Sometimes it screams the same verse. Over and over, are we really that different from the civilizations that vanished before us? Sure, our gadgets are shinier, and our buildings scrape the sky, but the core, the pride, the overreach, the blind spots, uncannily familiar. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today warns us, not because they failed, but because we're flirting with the exact same patterns. Think about it. Societies that grew too fast, expanded too far, and ignored the signs. They all fell. Sound familiar? We burn through natural resources, stretch global supply chains, and digitize human connection to the point of disconnection. We confuse growth with wisdom, but brilliance without balance is just arrogance in disguise. And the rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for today is that uncomfortable voice in the back of the room, asking if we've truly learned anything. Remember how ancient cities thrived through trade and tech, until it all turned against them. They became dependent, vulnerable to disruption, blind to the fragility of their own systems. Now look at us. Supply chains cracking, ecosystems collapsing, distrust festering. Are we building resilience or just castles on sand? The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for Today is a playbook of warnings, and yet most people scroll past it like it's background noise. Even their politics mirror ours. Internal division, populism, cults of personality, crumbling institutions. Yep, that's not new. The Hittites fell to infighting, the Elamites faded into civil unrest, and the Indus, perhaps fractured under stress with no unifying leadership. Now zoom out to today. Countries polarized, leaders distrusted, truth up for auction. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for Today doesn't just show us what went wrong, it begs us to ask why we're still making the same moves. But maybe the scariest mistake we're repeating is silence, ignoring the experts, mocking the warnings, laughing off the cracks until they become chasms. Ancient societies often saw the signs, failing harvests, shifting climates, rising tensions. But instead of adapting, they clung harder to the familiar. We're doing it too. The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for Today isn't just about dust and ruins, it's about denial. And that might be the most dangerous force of all. Yet within that shadow of fear lies a seed of hope. Because if their mistakes echo, so can our choices. We still have time to observe, adapt, and evolve. But it means asking hard questions, breaking old habits, and, most importantly, listening to the past. So what if the next lost civilization isn't buried yet? What if it's being built right now? The answers might just lie in understanding the ones we almost forgot. So, now that you've seen what came before, let me ask you something. Are we really evolving? Or are we just decorating our collapse with Wi-Fi and skyscrapers? The rise and fall of forgotten civilizations. Lessons for Today isn't just about the past. It's about you, your choices, your awareness, your future. What good is all this knowledge if we don't apply it? What if we could stop history from repeating itself? What if the next great fall doesn't have to happen? The ruins we unearthed in this journey were built by people like us. Curious, ambitious, flawed. They dreamed big, but ignored the cracks beneath their feet. Are we doing the same? Or are we finally ready to see the warning signs for what they are? Now I want to hear from you. What parallels did you notice between their fall and our world today? Which civilization shocked you the most, and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's start the conversation history couldn't finish. And if you want to keep uncovering ancient truths that can shape your life today, subscribe to Ancient Chronicles and hit that bell icon. Because the deeper you dig, the more you realize the past isn't dead. It's speaking directly to us.